Welcome back to the Profit Builder Unscripted. Today we're going to talk about how do you create an environment in your business and a culture where people love working with you, whether that's customers, employees, or subcontractors. All right, let's jump in. Last week, I was at a retreat with my mastermind group. I belong to a group called the Construction Consultants Mastermind, and we get together once a year live in a city that is someplace central to all of us. And we end up going out to dinner at least once during that time. And we went out to dinner this one evening and had a most amazing experience from this waiter who was a guy about 30 years old. And it wasn't a particularly fancy restaurant. It wasn't super high end, like where you expect to get like this very exceptional service. It was sort of one of those midline restaurants where you go to and you think, I'm going to get a decent meal and the service is going to be okay, right? It's not a fast food restaurant, but it's not a super high-end restaurant. And this young man was so attentive to each person as he came and he took our orders. He spoke to the person he was speaking. He was asking the question of like, what do you want for dinner directly? He repeated back to them what he heard. When he was done taking everybody's order, he went around and repeated the order to everyone, asked them what else that they wanted. Like he was clearly you felt very paid attention to, and you felt very heard. And he was clearly being very present in the process of waiting tables, right? And all of us by the end of the meal, and this sort of attentiveness and this being present and asking questions and making sure everybody had what they wanted was just, there was something about the way that, and this gentleman's name was Dylan. There was something about the way that Dylan was with all of us that had us all feel like we were very well taken care of. And he had such a nice presence about him. And, at the end of the meal, we started asking him about what else does he do. And he has this side business of doing social media for people. But we were all commented to him about how impressed we are about how he was with all of us and his attentiveness to the attention to the detail. And it got me thinking about the construction industry and about how and there was some problems during the meal too. Even there was like some things that didn't, the kitchen didn't send out that wasn't quite right, or that kind of got missed. But what was interesting is it did not diminish at all the experience that we had during that meal. It didn't diminish our experience of Dylan. As a matter of fact, he was very apologetic for it. He made right on it. So it wasn't like everything was perfect. Some things went wrong. But the experience that we were all left with was one of being very well served. And it got me thinking about the construction industry and about how we treat people and how we are with people and how we communicate with people, and our ability to give people an experience of feeling seen and heard and being very present with them when we're with them and we're in a conversation. And that ability to be able to give people an experience of being well served, even though things, went wrong and there were some issues or breakdowns or whatever. But it was the way that he handled it also in the middle of those breakdowns that was so impressive to all of us. And, it just made me wonder, like we sometimes focus on, and I know this is true for me with my team as well, right? That we focus on doing things right. And we focus on, are you doing it the way that you're supposed to be doing it? And it made me really stop and pause. And we all had this really great conversation about it when we got back to the house after dinner that night about customer service and what does it mean to serve people well, and what does it mean to give people a great experience. And we all agree that it didn't mean that we're perfect or that we don't make mistakes. And you probably heard that expression, it's not that we It's not that breakdowns don't happen, it's what we do in the face of them that matters. And it got me thinking about how do we invest time, and we talked about this too. How do we invest time in our teams that we teach them about good customer service and about having people feel seen and heard and that we're present with them. And if you've been listening to me for any time, you know that one of the things that I often say is that we all want to have a sense of contribution, value, belonging, and mattering. And somehow in Dylan's world, my guess is that the environment that has been created in that restaurant with how their staff is treated is also reflective of how the staff treats their customers. And that, and we asked Dylan a little bit about that. We were like, do you guys do training? And is this, you clearly are a bright young man and have a presence about you. And did some of that, like, do they spend time training you and working with you on customer service in this restaurant? And he said, yeah, that's part of the culture that they create, is that customer service and how we are with people and how we connect with people is very much a part of the training that they do with us. And I thought that was very interesting, and it was very reflected in certainly our experience. And then it got me thinking, how often do we spend time actually focusing on the experience that we give people and training people to have that ability to just be good listeners, or that ability to be completely present in a conversation and not distracted by other things, and cell phones put away in the pocket, that the volume is turned off, that when we're in a meeting we show up on time, that we're present, that we listen well, that we repeat back what we heard. Like, all of those things give somebody an experience of being heard, like that they're listened to, that we're paying attention. And so I wanted to share this story because it's, as we're growing our businesses, as leaders, and as we're looking at how do we build teams that take ownership, that have accountability, part of it is being really clear about what's the criteria for success in your job, right? Part of it is really clear about helping somebody own the result, not just the task. But another part of it is, how are we investing in our teams in doing training and development, and how they're interacting with other people, and are they representing the organization in a way that we want them to? And are they giving people an amazing experience, which again doesn't mean that they have all the answers. It doesn't mean that they're always perfect. It doesn't mean that they don't make mistakes, but that they're really present in listening and engaged with somebody, that they hear and they listen and they follow through and they do what they say they're going to do. Like, all of those little nuances of being somebody who can be counted on and who can be trusted, and building a culture where people feel good about working with us. And so as you're thinking about this, as you hear this, I'm curious, like, what do you hear and what do you do in your business to help train not just the tactical parts of it, right? But what do you do in terms of training culture, training service, training how to listen well, how to be attentive, how to have that mindfulness when they're with customers, and how to be when mistakes happen, right? How to take ownership of those. And yeah, so I would love to hear from you. I would love to know what you do in your business and how you handle that. I think that it's a great topic for us to continue to explore and to think about, because it makes all the difference in the world. I would go back to that restaurant in a heartbeat if I lived in that city, which I don't, but next time I'm there, it would be a place that I would go back to based on the experience I had with Dylan and that we had with Dylan. And Even if he's not there, I have this sense of, oh, this is a company that really, a restaurant and a company and a leadership team that invests in their employees in giving their customers a great experience. So if you have thoughts, if you have something that you do in this arena in your business, I would love to hear it. Please drop a note below, send me an email, or just more importantly, share it right with the community. I think it would be great to hear what you do in terms of training around this topic of customer service. All right. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for contributing. Thanks for being part of this community. It's how we grow and thrive together as businesses and as leaders. And I love being on this journey with you. So thank you. We'll see you next time on the Profit Builder Unscripted.